In the country of Armenia, there is a little village, barely a speck on the map, called Areni. It is on the Arpo River, and if you follow that river, or the road that goes along that river, not too far to the east, there's a set of caves and an archaeological site. And for reasons I'm not totally clear on, a restaurant. This is a picture of one of those caves, one of the chambers in the caves from the virtual tour that you can find online. I'm actually going to go to a slightly better picture that we have. Possibly, there we go. That's a little brighter. I don't have a laser pointer, so bear with me. On that kind of big round platform, when archaeologists found this space, they found grape seeds. People would press the grapes on that, and the juice would flow down into that larger kind of vat thing that is there, where the juices would sit and ferment before being put into big clay jars, amphorae, that were buried in the ground around them, to age, to grow, to mature. This site where wine was made is 6,500 years old. It is the first known winery, and it is prehistoric, or almost prehistoric, ancient at the very least. It's been there for ages and ages and ages. And according to stories, they still grow the grape that was used at this wine press. An Areni wine traces its lineage back thousands of years. You've actually had this wine before. If you were here for communion shortly after my sabbatical, it was our communion wine for a Sunday. Special order, had to wait weeks to get it. It's a nice dry wine. It's a beautiful, just beautiful bottle. The strange thing about this place, though, and I want to make sure I read this quote to you properly. This is from Ian Tattersall and Rob DeSalle's book, A Natural History of Wine. Sheila, if you want to go to the next slide and follow the quote. One intriguing aspect of the winery at Areni 1, that's the name of the cave complex, is its location within a cemetery of wine jars that had also served as urns. These burial jars contained the remains of several individuals of various ages. And although the remains of the men had been cremated, those belonging to women and juveniles had been dismembered. Drinking cups made of animal horn were also found in and around the interments. Boris Gasparian, the lead excavator at Areni 1, believes that there was a close relationship between the wine making and the activities associated with cremations, dismemberments, and burials. If so, the extraordinary site of Areni 1 inaugurated a tradition of using fermented beverages in funerary and other rites that is abundantly documented in later phases of antiquity. 6,500 years ago, in those ancient days, wine and death were intimately connected. Wine was fermented where the bodies were buried. Wine was drunk during the funerals. The cup, in this case the animal horn, went with death. Our readings today tie this together in kind of an odd way. In our first reading, some disciples come to Jesus and say, When you come into your glory, we would like to sit at your right hand and your left hand, positions of privilege, positions of power. Can you make that happen? And Jesus asks, do you think you can be baptized with the baptism that I will be baptized with? Do you think you can drink from the cup that I will drink from? And the disciples, not knowing what's coming, say, of course. Naturally, yes, we have been following you all this way. We can be baptized with the baptism that you are baptized with. We can drink from the cup that you will drink from. We are with you till the bitter end. And then he tells them, yes, you will be. You will be baptized with that baptism. You will drink from that cup, but I can't give you the seats at my right and left hands. I can't give you those positions of privilege. I can't give you those positions of power. They're not mine to give. And as we discussed in a previous sermon in this series, while those disciples may very well be with Jesus to the bitter end, they take a little break right around the time of the crucifixion. When all of these disciples scatter, when they abandon Jesus to his fate. Going through to the bitter end means taking on that baptism. It means drinking from that cup. Our second reading shows Jesus on the cross, dying and thirsty and in need of something. And while the cup that Jesus talks about, the cup that we drink from, is the cup that is up here, we are seeing in this moment where that cup must lead. Jesus is given some sour wine to drink so that he can go to death and to the tomb and to the resurrection. Wine and death, the cup and death, are intimately related. To drink from the cup that Christ offers, to drink from the cup of blessing, means going through the whole thing with Christ. It means, as hard as it is, as painful as it is, as unpleasant as it is, stepping into death. The cup and death, wine and death. I don't mean that in like a horrific bad way. Nothing is wrong with the cups up here. I'm not asking you to drink anything strange today. But to follow Christ, to actually follow Christ, to go through the whole thing with Christ, to go to the bitter end with Christ, does mean dying to the world as it is. It does mean dying to the powers of sin and death and everything that makes life less. It does mean dying to the kind of place where we've gotten comfortable in our brokenness, where we've gotten chill in our sickness, where we have adapted to being messed up. It does mean letting go of the crud that has accumulated. All of those parts of us that we don't really like, that we know aren't the good parts of us, that we know mean that is something wrong. It means letting go of some of ourselves. Dying to the world as it is. Dying to the powers of sin and death and everything that makes life less. And as I think I have implied, that is hard to do. That's uncomfortable to do. I know that I've said this time and time and time again, but part of what the powers of sin and death and everything that makes life less, part of what those powers are so good at is convincing us that whatever this is good, is great, that we are happy in our captivity, that we are healthy in our brokenness, that we should rejoice living in a world that is so drastically unfair to so many. They are good at saying that if we just accumulate enough of that privilege, enough of that power, enough of that prestige, that should count as paradise. Even though the colors are washed out, even though it is faded, it's the best we're going to get. And so we should be happy. But what Christ tells us, what Christ calls us to, is something far greater. Something far more amazing. Something that does require that we let go of those comforts, that we step out onto a ledge, that we take a risk, that we do something that is wild and dangerous and full of grace, that we die to what is. Because if we do, we will rise to something greater. We will rise to a version of this world where the colors are full color, where nothing is faded out, where the powers of sin and death and everything that makes life less are gone, where death itself is past. We will step into new and abundant life with Christ. We will step into God's reign of love. And while the joys that we had will still be joyful, while the joys of this world are still worth it, we will find ourselves feeling so much more joy, so much truer joy, so much more amazing bliss, so much more love, so much more life. It is the risk of dying to what is that makes possible the rising to what God is calling us to. It is the risk of dying to the powers of sin and death and everything that makes life less, that we have grown so accustomed to, that makes possible rising to God's reign of love. And again, I will tell you that is hard. I know that it's hard because I don't always do it. I know that it is hard because I take a look at the risks that I should take and say that's a little too much. And yet I know in my heart of hearts, I know in my soul of souls, I know deep inside where I hear that still small voice of God, that so much more is possible. And that when I feel that fear that comes with risking love for friends and neighbors, love for strangers and enemies, love for everyone, when I feel that fear of risking love, that I should still take that step. That yes, it may lead to something hard, it may lead to something difficult, it may lead to a metaphorical death, it may, in fact, as it has for so many of our heroes, lead, in fact, to absolutely literal death. But it also leads to life, abundant life, eternal life in God's reign of love. Wine and death are intimately connected. The cup and death are intimately connected, but they lead to life. And that is worth any risk. that is worth any risk. That life, that resurrection, that new and abundant world full of grace is worth any risk. And so we drink from the cup that Christ drank from. We drink from the cup that Christ drinks from. We drink from the cup that Christ offers, because what Christ offers is precisely life. Thanks be to God.